Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, founder of Etherplan. I research, write articles, and podcasts about Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin, and decentralized applications. This series is Getting Started with Ethereum Classic, section Security. I'm going to read the article Proof of Work has division of power, Proof of Stake does not. This is episode 25 of 50. Proof of Work has division of power, Proof of Stake does not. Yet another of the brilliant solutions, perhaps one of the most important ones that Satoshi Nakamoto created when building Bitcoin, was to solve the famous Byzantine generals problem in distributed systems. This means that, rather than 33% minus 1 fault tolerance, proof of work based blockchains have up to 50% fault tolerance. However, what Satoshi really did was actually to avoid the problem rather than solving it directly by establishing an external physical signaling system, mining. As an external physical signal, it resembles the signals Earth receives from outer space, which are uncontrollable, therefore unforgeable by humans. For example, when laser interferometers on Earth detect gravitational waves, those are truly trustless because it is impossible for humans to forge such signals. And whoever has a detector, for example, scientists in the US, European Union, China, India, and others, can actually verify the signal directly from the source. However, mining in proof of work based blockchains is not totally trustless, as many confuse. It is really trust minimized, because if a sufficient amount of miners collude to reorganize the blockchain, they can actually do it. This threshold is the famous 51% attack. Highly secure blockchains such as Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic, etc., use the proof of work based consensus mechanism created by Satoshi Nakamoto, thus called Nakamoto consensus. Division of power between miners and full node operators. The good news is that in proof of work based networks, full nodes actually have an additional very powerful recourse to defend themselves from potentially malicious miners, to split from them. The above can be done by rejecting blocks by implementing a user activated soft fork UASF, or by outright firing or excluding the miners from the network by changing the mining algorithm, which would render their mining equipment and thus capital investment useless. The ability to split from miners, when and if they behave maliciously, constitutes a very powerful symmetrical division of power in any proof of work based operating network such as Bitcoin or Ethereum Classic. This is because the standing threat of being excluded is an important deterrent for miners to build blocks with different rules, reorganize the blockchain, make double spends, or disturb the network liveness and safety in any way. Division of power does not exist between validators and full node operators in proof of stake distributed ledgers. Note that I wrote distributed ledgers in the title above. This is because proof of stake networks are not blockchains. Blocks are only made by miners in proof of work based networks using enormous amounts of energy, similar to the large events in space that are detected on Earth. All the other digital asset networks, including the format and terminology of blocks, all the other digital asset networks using the format and terminology of blocks just do that to make the market believe they are blockchains to appeal to the authority of Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic. However, proof of stake distributed ledgers do not have the division of power that proof of work based blockchains have. This is because the way those networks are organized is that of all the nodes, only a subset, the validators, sometimes called stakers, block producers, bakers, masternodes, etc., are the ones who collect, produce, and enter new data batches into the distributed ledger. As the form of becoming validators is by depositing digital currency, stake, in their accounts, That means that they are inside the same ledgers as the rest of the nodes. What the above organizational structure creates is that if there are attacks by malicious validators and the full nodes and the remaining honest validators want to split, they actually carry the attackers with them to the new distributed ledger. This is a huge weakness in proof-of-stake systems because it means that the only nodes with any power are the subset who are established as validators. They are under no threat of being fired or excluded from the network unless a cardinal rule in trust-minimized networks is broken: immutability of accounts, smart contracts, and balances. The above is because some theorists believe that social consensus or weak subjectivity in proof of stake means that the hard fork to exclude the malicious validators from the distributed ledger, for example by deleting their accounts and balances or confiscating their deposits, would be a perfectly fine action. This philosophy was in fact applied when the DAO attacker was neutralized from the Ethereum network in 2016 by means of a hard fork that implemented an irregular state change. However, the reality is that such arbitrary interventions as described above only confirm that the proof-of-stake design is fundamentally flawed for high-security use cases. The other important thing that this exercise shows is that the true fault tolerance in proof-of-stake networks is 33% minus 1 of the subset of nodes who are established as validators. This means the subset of the subset. That is an extremely weak security threshold. Conclusion. There are other serious security vulnerabilities in proof-of-stake distributed ledgers below their fault tolerance. These include that validator entries in the ledger do not accumulate work, therefore reversing the whole chain to genesis is trivial, while in proof-of-work based blockchains the accumulated work in the chain since the genesis block actually makes it practically impossible to reverse the blockchain even if miners have 100% of mining power. The other vulnerability is that the absence of an objective fork choice when there are network splits such as the most accumulated proof of work does not minimize cyber attacks. In proof of work based blockchains, that objective fork choice minimizes cyber attacks because as long as a node is connected to at least one honest node, it is easy to always select the best version of the chain. As to symmetrical division of power, it exists in proof-of-work based blockchains because the signal that miners send to the network of full nodes is produced and sent from totally external sources. This means that full nodes have the option of firing and replacing such external sources if they become systematically or significantly corrupted, without violating immutability of the ledger, accounts, smart contracts, and balances. Such division of power does not exist in proof-of-stake distributed ledgers, making them significantly more vulnerable. That makes full proof-of-stake networks perhaps more adequate for high performance but less secure tasks in the digital asset industry. Thank you very much.